Hello and welcome to Raw Chatter. I am your host, Vicky Midwood speaking, integrative health, nutrition and lifestyle coach and specialist in all things to do with alcohol and food and body issues. And I am here today to talk about your head and your body and just what can you do when you feel that your head will never shut up. So for those of you who've not joined me before, I want to say welcome. Thank you for being here. I help people who struggle with eating disorders, disordered eating, alcohol dependence, anxiety, and all of the health issues that go along with having struggled with those issues for a reasonable length of time. Now, some of my clients have had issues only for a few months, but the majority of them have had issues that they've struggled with for decades. And most of them come to me when they've tried everything else and are still struggling. And what makes me different is that I do things completely differently to anything that they have ever done before. And a lot of them are confused at the start because it is very different and they don't necessarily understand why they're doing what they're doing. But obviously further on down the line, as they start to feel and think in a completely different way and change their identity, it all makes sense. One of the things that I help my clients to do is to connect back to their body. Because when we have issues with food, with exercise addiction, with alcohol dependence, and we are tuning in to feelings that if we can just change the way that we look or change our size, then everything will miraculously be fine. We tend to speak about and treat our body very differently to people who don't have those issues. And a lot of the time there is total separation. People are so disconnected from their own physical needs, physical requirements. And a lot of the time they are punishing their body, but then expecting their body to be able to function and work well. And the long and the short of it is, it can't. If you don't give your body what it requires to function well on a cellular level, if you don't give it the nutrients, the fresh air, the exercise, the movement, the oxygen that it needs, then there's no way you are going to be functioning well mentally or physically, because your brain is within your physical body. It is not separate. So anything that we do to our physical body is affecting our thoughts, our actions, the way that our brain functions, and of course, our emotions. Now, a number of my clients have discovered, oftentimes later on, that they have ADHD. Now, there seems to be so much social narrative around ADHD, and a lot of it in a negative way. We have people who saying, oh, it's really trendy at the moment, for example, and other people saying, well, it's an excuse for bad behavior. And there's a lot of misunderstanding and misinformation about what ADHD is and how it shows up. And here's the thing, it's not the same for everybody. So the symptoms and the issues that people with ADHD struggle with on a daily basis are different for everybody. You may have seen a symptom checker, for example. You might even have done one of the online questionnaires. Maybe you've thought about potentially, is ADHD something that is part of the reason why you may be struggling? But those questionnaires don't cover some of the things that are important. And a lot of the time, people with undiagnosed ADHD have been binge eaters, or they have turned to substances like alcohol, like drugs, because they were looking for a dopamine hit, not realizing that their brain is functioning slightly differently to other people's. And they blamed willpower and there's something wrong with me. Why can't I get a grip? Why can't I control myself like other people can? Not knowing that actually there is something different about the way that their brain is functioning. And that is physiologically, biochemically, and neurotransmitter-wise as well. And they didn't know that. And so you can't blame them to some extent for falling out with themselves or just not being able to get results when they've done other kinds of programs. Now, part of what I do with my clients is I give them a number of questionnaires from the get-go so that I get a really, really clear picture across the board of where they are. And one of those questionnaires is looking at their brain region function. And so from that, I can get a good idea of just what is going on in different areas of the brain. And so that highlights to me if there is potentially somebody who is struggling, particularly with executive functioning. And that is something that people who have ADHD struggle quite a lot with. And so many people do not realize that there is a correlation between ADHD and addictive habits and thoughts. And if you are listening and you are somebody with ADHD, I am not a specialist in ADHD. I understand it in terms of how it normally affects the clients I work with dependence and addiction issues. And a lot of the time, those clients are turning to food or to alcohol or to caffeine or to excessive exercise, adventure type sports that give them a thrill. And they're not necessarily knowing why. Often they have issues as well and struggles around organization and time management, which creates stress. And that very stress then makes them want to turn to these things more and more and more. And if you are somebody who struggles, then you perhaps will recognize that pattern for yourself. For somebody else looking in on the outside, it doesn't make any sense. Well, here's what I want to say. ADHD is not logical. You can't logicalize something that is not a logic problem. And somebody with ADHD has a brain that is functioning differently to somebody who doesn't have it. And that means that how they behave around food, how they think about their body, the sort of words and the language that they use about themselves can also be different. Now, that being said, do I work with people who have exactly the same issues who don't have ADHD? Yes, absolutely, I do. And so it's not going to be something that I say, everybody has ADHD who has alcohol issues and who has disordered eating issues. I don't. And I had issues with all of those things. And I do not have ADHD, but I struggled very much in the same way as a lot of these people do. And what I do know across the board is that the disconnection between our body and our brain is massive when it comes to how we behave, particularly around food and what we need to do to take care of our body and therefore to take care of our health. When our head wants to take over, it means that we are not able to tune into or to listen or hear the signals that our body is giving us. We use our brain to interpret something that is a feeling. And what we need to start doing is getting more into our body and out of our head so that we can actually connect more to feelings. I've shared this before as part of my story. I was totally disconnected from my emotions and my feelings. If somebody said to me, how do you feel about this? I would look to them for a clue as to how I'm supposed to feel. Because in and of myself, I really did not know what I felt. I thought that feelings were based upon an opinion. They were good, they were bad. There were certain feelings you should feel in certain situations, and there were certain feelings that you shouldn't feel in certain situations. That was my programming based upon my upbringing and my background. And so when somebody said to me, what do you feel about that? I struggled. I would always look to somebody else to guide me as to how should I feel? What is acceptable? What is normal? And I didn't know. And so I had to have literally a printed out sheet of emojis when I went into rehab to help me actually connect to what I was feeling. But I was still nowhere near connecting those words of feelings to how it actually felt in my body. And that is something that I have had to learn and to practice over time. And it's something that I kind of want to touch on really today, because I think it's so important that if you feel your thoughts are taking over and running away with you, then the easiest way to quieten your mind is to connect back into your body so that your head has to shut up. Now, a lot of the people that I work with are not clients who have issues with food and drink necessarily, but they have issues with their gut function. And it's linked very, very strongly with anxiety and overthinking pretty much everything. These are the kind of people who, if they haven't got something to worry about, they will worry about the fact that they haven't got something to worry about. In other words, they are addicted to the struggle. They are addicted to the chemicals that are created in your body when you are worrying. And that is a very real addiction. And I shared this, I think, on episode 18, when I was talking about us being addicted to making things hard. And I also shared it on another podcast episode where I was talking about, are you addicted to the struggle? And the answer is that a lot of people are, because it's their identity, or it's become their identity. And a lot of them have trouble with sleeping. And if you're not sleeping well, we all know that sleep is number one. I've said this again before, and I'll say it again. I put sleep and hydration as kind of equal number one, along with how you are breathing, because I don't think you can separate them. Every single one of those is equally important. We need to be breathing in through our nose and making sure we're taking in good quality oxygen, that we are breathing right to the bottom of our lungs and not breathing shallowly. We need to be hydrated because 70% of our body is made of water, and we need to have sleep so that our cells and our metabolic function and our hormones have the opportunity to renew and get rid of the rubbish and to rebalance, etc. So all of those are equally as important. But if your head is never quiet, it's very, very difficult for you to be able to connect back to what you are truly feeling without there being this chitter-chatter narrative going on at you all of the time. And this is something that is really, really powerful in people with ADHD, but also in people who struggle with a lot of anxiety. Their head is always telling them that they're doing something wrong, or they should be thinking about this, or there's a disaster waiting to happen over there, or they're jumping most of the time from the past to the future and then back to the past, and they're not here in the present. Now, what connecting back to your body allows you to do is to get back into the present really quickly. And it could just mean something as simple as think about your right toe. And as soon as I've said that now, whatever thought was going on through your head, whether you were listening to my words and thinking about what you were doing when it comes to your sleeping, or whether you're looking at the background, or whatever you're doing, now I said, think about your right toe. Your brain has focused on your right toe. And for the moment, your head's hopefully quietened down and is not doing this at you. So connecting back to your body is super important. And then asking the question of, well, what is it feeling, right? What is my right toe feeling? Is it feeling uncomfortable? Is it neutral? Am I not feeling anything? Actually, is my awareness now going to my little toe? Okay, that's interesting. Okay, now my awareness has gone to my little toe. Am I feeling the urge to move my foot? And what I'm getting you to do now is to connect to your body and to just get curious. Now you've started to connect to your body, you might be asking yourself, am I comfortable where I'm sitting? Do I need to move my arms slightly? Do I need to move my legs to a different position? Do I feel I want to sit more upright? And when we allow ourselves to connect into our body, it allows that mind to quieten down. For the people who I help with anxiety, with body dysmorphia issues, with eating issues, with alcohol problems, And it goes across the board really to any kind of issue where you're not feeling that you're in control or in charge. Your brain seems like it's running away with you. Now, we only ever have one thought at a time, but it feels like those thoughts are coming in much, much faster than that. And with somebody with ADHD, it almost feels like it's a tsunami of thoughts that just like hits you and almost like buries you underneath the water. And you want to come up for air. But the more you try and outthink a thinking issue, you're never going to do it because you're still thinking. And so the only way we can get out of thinking is to come into our body. So notice, what are you doing with your fingers right now? How does it feel for you to tap your thumbs together or for you to tap your fingers to each different finger? What does that feel like? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Are you finding that you're starting to create a rhythm? Are you feeling that you want to do things like this? Are you wanting to wiggle them around? Maybe you want to... Whatever it is that you feel you want to do, don't stop yourself from doing it, because your body knows what you want and what you need way better than this does. And so one of the things that I took away from when I was in rehab and going to AA and all of those meetings, whether it's NA, OA, it doesn't really matter, or NA, particularly, if you stay in your head, you're dead. In other words, if you listen to what this is telling you all of the time that you should do, you're going to really struggle. It's going to be hard. But if you can shut this up and connect to what is my gut telling me, what is my heart saying, rather than what is my head saying, you're going to find that you overall make better choices. But also you start to feel more connected to who you are as a person, and you start to be able to trust yourself much, much more. And that is a massive issue for people that I work with who've bulimia or anorexia, and they are, for the first time possibly in decades, trying to learn to eat again like a normal person, because they immediately distrust their body. They believe that their body is going to let them down in some way, and it's going to get massive and huge and fat, and they're just not going to be able to handle it. And so we have got to recognize that's a real fear, possibly based upon past experiences when they have not known how to eat and they've just gone completely the other way. And that actually has been a reality. Or it's just a fear that is a belief based upon what their head is telling them about the future, which means they're not able to actually tune in and connect to what does their body need and want. And I teach my clients a specific technique to be able to do that so that they can ask their body, what does it need? But we've got to allow ourselves to shut this off to be able to hear the answer. So when you can connect to your body, you will quieten down your mind. And that gives you the opportunity to feel calmer and more relaxed. And we all know if we're in a stressed state, we make bad decisions. That's all humans, don't care who you are. If you make a decision when you're stressed, it's likely to be not a great decision. You make better decisions when you are in a state of calm and relaxation. So whether it's to do with whether you should take a drink or whether you should have this food or that food, or whether you should exercise and for how long, we need to ask our body, what do you want? And there is a specific formula for doing that. And it's not complicated. It's really fast and it's really simple that I teach to my clients. And the more they start to implement that, the more they start to build trust and confidence that their body actually does know what it needs. Your body knows better than your brain what is good for you, because your brain is in your body. So what you are doing for your body is going to benefit your brain. So today, if you are somebody who struggles with what I call washing machine head, you are procrastinating, you're struggling to make choices, maybe you're going to bed and you can't relax because your head, as soon as you hit the pillow, suddenly gets switched on. Let yourself connect back to your body. Try it. Get curious. If you're lying in your bed, just notice, how does your heel feel on the sheets? How does your head sit on the pillow? How do your elbows feel? Are they digging in and relaxing into your rib cage? Or have you got your elbow in contact with the mattress? Or are you connected to your partner? Because once you start to notice what you're feeling and what a particular part of your body is doing, you can then ask the question, is that nice? Do I want it to stay here? Is it comfortable? Or actually, would I prefer to move? And the whole time that you are doing that, this is no longer thinking about the stuff that was potentially stopping you from falling asleep. I hope that's been useful to you folks. If it's made no sense to you, then maybe you know somebody who actually might find it useful and helpful. But either which way, even if you're not somebody who has any issues, just connecting to your body and asking it what it needs is a really good habit to get into, because it does allow you to start to tune in more. Your body knows the score. And as far as I know, we only have one body. Yeah, we only have one life too, but we only have one body within the life that we've got right now. So look after it, because it is looking after you. If you do like what you've heard, I'd love you to subscribe. I'd love you to give me a like. And as I say, if you think this has been helpful or it could be useful to somebody else, please do point them in the right direction. And until next time, take care of yourself.